Well, in June, the Prime Minister was finally forced to tell us there would be a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. 4 months have gone by. Nothing has yet happened other than the preparations, and they're going wrong. Already, we have a senior former police officer, a senior former social worker who have been rejected. Four members of the panel who were victims have withdrawn, and there's a big row with government going on. Here was the Minister responsible, Jess Phillips, in the House of Commons yesterday.
We must avoid delays, as was seen in the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, and are progressing as swiftly as thoroughness allows. Misinformation undermines this process. Allegations of intentional delay, lack of interest, or widening of the inquiry's scope and dilution are false. The inquiry will remain laser-focused on grooming gangs, as Baroness Casey recommended.
Well, I'm afraid the misinformation to which she refers are the criticisms of the victims that have left the panel. And one of those victims, Ellie Ann Reynolds, posted this at lunchtime today. Jess Phillips uncovered her true colours in the House of Commons yesterday, along with admitting that every single institution has failed us survivors over the years. Jess Phillips, it is in your best interest to stand down. You've proven you are unfit for your role. And I'm asking you at home, given the farce this has sunk to, do you think this inquiry, the way it's been set up, should continue, or should we try something different? Please tweet #Farage and GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I am joined down the line by Ellie Ann Reynolds, grooming gang survivor from Barrow up in Cumbria. Ellie Ann, thank you for coming on and joining us. Now, basically, this is a big row between you and Jess Phillips, and she's accusing you of misinformation. And I was interested, a couple of things you said that interested me. One, you saw the panel bosses that were potentially being appointed as being a conflict of interest.
Absolutely. I think when the former employment statuses were as they were, how did they expect any survivor to sit on that panel and be confident that the inquiry was going to succeed with former police officers and former social workers? They are the very institutions that have failed us for many, many years.
Yeah, no, I understand your point. I mean, I happen to think that police officer is a good chap, but I get your point. You can't get them marking their own homework. But the more serious charge that you made was when you described the panel atmosphere, as you're talking and getting ready for this to begin, you described the whole process as toxic, isolating and depressing. I'm really keen to get what you mean when you say those things.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very controlled environment when we had to draft questions and submit them 24 hours before. And, we were given bullet points of what we should be asking and when we should be asking it. And we had to sit and think of our answers 24 hours prior. And we were just given lists all the time. We were told that we weren't allowed to seek support from any of the survivors on the panel, our own families and friends. We weren't allowed to talk about it. When the documents were actually sent over, that included the candidates for the chair, it was very password protected, secretive. You're not allowed to take photos. You're not allowed to share this information. It was all it's so secretive. It became unsafe. It became dangerous in that sense, because why were they tiptoeing and why were we tiptoeing around something that should have been public knowledge?
I mean, Eliane, I'm talking to you. I have met since 2014 when I first got to understand about this problem in Rotherham. I've met many of the victims, and there is anger amongst yourselves. There's also a broader anger amongst the public that this appears to have been covered up for a very, very long time. Is it, from what you saw leading up to this point, were you discouraged from discussing the ethnicity and religion of the perpetrators?
Absolutely. I mean, when it was suggested that we widened the range, it was automatically a dilution. But then when we can't discuss the ethnicity of our abusers, and you almost feel wrong for doing that, it becomes really disheartening at that point, because I always say, like, people forget about how these abusers treat us and how we were receiving racial slurs off them, and you're almost like, you feel like you're in the wrong for saying my abuser's a Muslim Pakistani, my abuser's a Bangladeshi. You shouldn't have to walk on eggshells around where your abuser comes from.
No, quite right. Final thought from you, Eliane. You said it at midday, you still feel Jess Phillips is the wrong person for the safeguarding ministry?
Yeah, I think she's unfit for a role. I think the way that she conducted herself yesterday in the House of Commons was embarrassing. It was disgusting. She showed a lot of anger and aggressive behaviour towards the survivors. And my question is, are you angry because you were caught out in a cover-up that's no longer successful? We've exposed that. Because I don't think that she's angry that, everything else that's going on. I think that she's embarrassed herself, and I think that the way that she's held herself, people need to question if she's the right person that liaises with survivors.
Eliane Reynolds, thank you for joining us live here on GB News. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Well, Maurice Glasman joins me along with Kwasi Kwarteng. A very articulate woman.
Right.
The anger is simmering. She's in control.
Yeah.
She's very in control. But can you see the argument she's making?
Oh, I totally see the argument she's making. And Eliane, if you're watching, I'm completely with you. I mean, totally with you and all the girls who were sexually abused by Pakistani rape gangs. You know, Nigel, we've talked about, I want to see a televised show trial. I actually think that we need an exorcism of this wickedness. And who needs to go down? The rapists and everybody who covered it up, including the police, including the social workers, including the Conservative and Labour councillors, including cabinet ministers who shuffled it to one side. We've got to get this poison out our bloodstream. This is disgusting. Young girls were systematically raped and nothing was done.
Maurice,
and Nigel, we've been on this, but this has got to go straight.
Utterly shameful.
It's disgusting.
In every way.
Every way.
And I tell you what, and Kwasi, it isn't just doing damage in this country. No. The world's looking at this.
Yeah, look, I think, and the point she made very powerfully was what actually disturbed me even more. I mean, the abuse was horrific, but you'd expect at some point, responsible people in government, responsible people, dare I say, in the civil service, would come together to try and flush out the truth.
Not so.
And that's what amazed me. I mean, I've sat on House of Commons committees for years, and it sounded to me how she described the way that committee that was very much curated in the way that a House of Commons committee can be curated.
Yeah.
The officials,
and that's the thinking. That's the thinking.
That's exactly. These are the questions.
And that's the thinking in the establishment that led to the failure in the first place.
That's right. So
that's her anger.
Yeah, that surprised me because I lived that life.
I'm afraid that's true.
And I saw that.
But I wonder whether there's something a little bit more political in Labour effectively softballing on this and doing everything they can to push the results of the inquiry beyond the next general election. Later on, yesterday, Jess Phillips behaved in this manner in response to a question from a fellow MP.
But the fact of the matter is that there is absolutely no council in this country who will tell this inquiry where it can and cannot go. I have said that 1,000,000 times from this dispatch box, and yet the same thing gets peddled again and again.
Yeah. Now, I admit I could be misreading this, but I think this is very, very political. Let's have a look at Jess Phillips' constituency. Now, you'll see that her majority at the last election was 693 in a constituency with a 43% Muslim population. We can look at another senior Labour figure. We can look, I think, at Wes Streeting's numbers next. And with Wes Streeting, you will see he was elected with a tiny majority of 500, and it is likely, given the change in demographics, that Gaza independents or the hard left are going to put Streeting in a difficult position. It also affects Shabana Mahmood, who is, of course, the Home Secretary. And once again, she was elected. All right, it's a bigger majority, but still you can see there is a growing ethnic there is a growing sectarian vote in this country. And Morris, I have to say this to you, that it would suit this Labour government.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it sounds very cynical from me, but it would suit this Labour government for this inquiry to stretch out for years and not to come to any conclusions for fear that they're seen to attack this community whose votes they need.
And I'm saying to you that that's just straightforward political logic. You can understand that. But what I do say to you, Nigel, and I've said it before, of all the three you were looking at there, there's one of them who wants to do it immediately, who wants to get this going. So I also say to Eliane, and I'm urging it politically inside Labour, Shabana Mahmood is not afraid of losing her seat if that means that this Pakistani rape gang inquiry is shelved. She wants to do it pronto. I think she should be given full responsibility for this inquiry. You know, that it should go through that.
Should this inquiry continue, or do we need to start a different procedure?
Well, I think we've got to put a 6-month deadline on this. Precisely
not years.
No, 6 months. No, 6 months to complete. I'm talking about.
But the problem with the committee now is that people have left. They can't work out who the chair is.
Reconstitute.
So even if it's reconstituted, there's a big cloud over its authority.
Put it under the authority of Shabana Mahmood. She needs to chair it, and it needs to be public.
No, but you can't have a government minute. You can't have, as Nigel said, they can't mark their own homework.
There's got to be political leadership on this just to hurry it up.
So the point about Jess Phillips, and I know Jess Phillips, I quite respected her, but she's a very emotional politician. She's got a very thin majority.
We just saw that.
We saw that. And but Morris, she was the one who said we shouldn't have an inquiry in the first place.
Exactly.
So the idea that she is now the person responsible for the...
and she also,
crazy.
By the way, she also says that her comments weren't directed at the victims, but if you look at what she said and what the criticism of the victims were, I mean, I put her point of view for balance.
She takes everything personally, and she's made it very personal, and she's very aggressive.
Completely inappropriate. Exactly. So what I'm saying to you, there is actually no issue bigger than this right now. This has got to be right at the centre of our politics. As a nation...
Because of the enormity...
We need to
morally of what it is.
Exactly. It's a disgusting, evil, wicked, satanic thing, is what I'm saying. The systematic rape of young girls
I know.
By Pakistani men is wicked and evil. Now, we've got to be... We don't want the mob, and this is what we will get, because people will be vigilante. What we need is a public trial.
Well, Morris,
and what's clear is that
let me make a suggestion. Let me make a suggestion. Last night, we had Ranel Joe Wardner on the panel. He made a very interesting point, that all these public inquiries go on for years. The COVID one's not even over.
That's right.
We sort of almost barely noticed that Boris Johnson was on it yesterday. He made a point, after the banking collapse in 2008, and the tens of billions of British taxpayers' money that was ploughed in to prop up the banks, that a banking commission was held in Parliament. It actually subpoenaed Fred the Shred. Could this not be done in Parliament? With everything televised, everything live?
Perfect. This is what it's got to be. Parliament's got to take control.
Yes.
This has got to be completely agreed.
But you and I know. But listen, I mean, you and I know.
By the way, the Speaker in the Lords is a really good man. I mean, he would be perfect.
But you know what's happened. The government were dragged kicking and screaming to the point where they had to have an inquiry. I think Nigel makes a fair point about the vulnerability of a lot of these MPs, prominent people.
I sound cynical, but I think I'm right.
But MPs always think about their majorities. Regardless of what else is going on, they will always be thinking about their majorities.
And this is what I'm saying to you, Kwasi. I'm just putting it on the line in front of your viewers and to you, and I've talked to Nigel. I do believe that Shabana Mahmood has the integrity to really push this and do this.
Well, do you know something, Morris? If she rises above this
absolute
B mess, because that's what it is right now.
But you and I know that she's not...
With people struggling, Kwasi, people struggling to believe what the Prime Minister says on this. Certainly the Jess Phillips thing seems laced with hypocrisy to me. Someone's got to grip this. It is an opportunity for the Home Secretary to step up.
It precisely is.
Morris, forgive me, you've come across me the whole time. No. Let me just say one thing. The idea that she decides... what the government responds to do is for the birds. It's important that your viewers know that it rests with the Prime Minister The Home Secretary can't put up her hand and say, I'm going to chair this inquiry.
Unless
if
he
number
gives-
10 says no.
Well, yes,
Well,
of
let's-
course.
so
Of
number
course.
And that's what's
10
happening.
No,
number
of course, number
okay.
10 would need...
First of all, sorry if there was a
No, sorry, I mean,
microaggression, Kazi. I'm sorry if your feelings are hurt by talking.
They're not. They're not.
He's big enough and ugly
I'm a
enough.
big boy. And
I
they're
know
not.
that you're a sensitive
Morris,
person.
don't worry about Kwasi. He can look after himself. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to draw
didn't
stumps
want to
on
hurt
this.
his feelings.
Yes, this is... I mean, Morris is right in one regard. This is an opportunity for the Home Secretary to step in and do something. But I also believe Kwasi is right. It would need the authority of number 10. What is for certain is that these young women, and I'm afraid there are thousands of them,
Absolutely.
all over the country, were ignored. They were, frankly, their cases were buried from sight. There were dramatic failures by social services, by police, by politicians.
And they were insulted.
And they were insulted and worse. And they want the British public to know the truth.
We want to know.
And I think the British public want to know the truth.
Absolutely.
And this is a stain, not just on us, but our international reputation as well.